Good day, everyone. Welcome to Aluza Training Hub. Aluza meaning to bring light in Spanish. My name is Mtogo Singosi, MT for short. I will be your facilitator for this course. It has been compiled by a group of exceptionally qualified consultants and auditors. I hope that you'll find it very informative and worth your while. My specific background is in food science, agricultural science, and public health. I've been a food safety consultant and auditor for the past 9 to 10 years in the food, beverage, and pharmaceuticals. Should you need any assistance throughout the course, we will be here to support you. All the best, and please do make suggestions should you feel that there is something that you can improve. Thank you. Good day, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Module 1, where we will be introducing you to food safety management systems. This lesson has the following topics: the history and evolution of food safety, famous food safety incidents that have occurred, the purpose of a food safety management system today, and lastly, the benefits of implementing a food safety management system. Look at the history and evolution of food safety. Before we discuss it any further, let's look at the HACCP concept. How did it really come about? It all began in the early 1960s, where NASA and a food manufacturing company called Pillsbury formed a partnership. This was to ensure that the food that was sent with astronauts to space was safe for them. They then identified the risk that each of the food items they were taking are identified and preventive controls effectively implemented. This was to ensure that there would not be any food safety incidents while the astronauts were being sent to space or while they were in space. But what does the HACCP concept mean? The H stands for hazards. In food safety, we have got 4 categories of hazards. 1. Biological hazards. 2. Allergens. 3. Chemicals. 4. Physical hazards. The A stands for analysis. This is where we look at the likelihood of a hazard being either present, being introduced, growing, and surviving in food. After we have determined the likelihood, we then look at the severity of impact to the consumer. Would it have no impact at all? Will the consumer be mildly sick? Will the consumer be critically sick? Or can it be fatal? Once we have identified the severity of a hazard, the process step that aims to remove that particular hazard is called the critical control point. So the definition of a CCP is a process step that could either eliminate the hazard, prevent the hazard, or reduce the hazard to an acceptable level. In other words, a level where the food or the hazard be brought under control so that it can be safe for the consumer. In 1971, HACCP was presented to the food industry for the first time at the first National Conference on Food Protection. The following year, Pillsbury began teaching HACCP classes to the FDA inspectors, and HACCP was implemented in low-acid canning regulations. In the early 1980s, both the World Health Organization and the National Academy of Science recognized HACCP's role in the microbiological safety of foods. In 1983, WHO Europe recommended HACCP. Then in 1985, the National Academy of Science recommended HACCP to the general food industry. In the early 1990s, Codex Alimentarius, which is a collection of internationally recognized standards, codes of practice, guidelines, and other recommendations relating to food production, food labeling, and food safety, adopted the guidelines for the application of the hazard analysis critical control point system in the general food industry. Then in 1994, an international HACCP alliance and Safe Quality Foods Program was formed. As HACCP implementation became more widespread and evolved, many stakeholders across the meat and poultry industry saw a need of a more unified understanding of the HACCP system. The British Retail Consortium, which has since been rebranded to Brand Reputation Through Compliance, is a globally recognized UK trade organization. The company was founded in 1996 by retailers who wanted to harmonize food safety standards across the supply chain. The BRC publishes a family of standards referred to as BRC Global Standards, and BRC certification is certified compliance with one of these standards. The standards prescribe quality, safety, integrity, and operational criteria to ensure that manufacturers fulfill their legal obligations and also provide protection for the end consumers. The BRCGS standards are GFSI recognized. But what is the GFSI? The Global Food Safety Initiative is a private organization that oversees and approves different auditing platforms as meeting their criteria. This criterion provides a universal gold standard of recognition to specific food safety audits. The initiative was launched in 2000 following a number of food safety incidents and changes to public laws in the food sector, which also included the EU food law. With legal obligations for their supply chains and compliance connected to liability, European retailers decided to use private standards to comply with public law requirements. It is a business-driven initiative for the development of food safety management systems to ensure food facilities are processing safe food for consumers. In practice, this means that a food processor or manufacturer who can point to their GFSI certification can effectively and immediately show their customers and potential customers that their plant is operating with a structured, comprehensive, and effective food safety program. Let's now move to the International Featured Standards, which is commonly called the IFS. IFS standards are uniform food product and service standards. They ensure that IFS certified companies produce a product or provide a service that complies with customer specifications while continually working on process improvements. The International Featured Standard was developed by German and French retailers for auditing private label production in 2003 under the name International Food Standard. Since 2005, Italian trade organizations have also been involved in these joint projects. The IFS serves as a uniform review of food safety and quality level of manufacturers. The standard aims to improve the food safety and quality of products in order to enhance consumer protection and trust and to increase the cost efficiency in the food supply chain. It is a highly valued food-specific quality assurance system and is also GFSI recognized. Let's now move to ISO 2000-2005. In 2001, the International Organization for Standardization started the development of an auditable standard for the food industry, which built on the hazard analysis and critical control point certification's role in food safety management system. The result was ISO 20000-2005, which was obviously issued in 2005. Its aim was to define food safety management system requirements for companies that needed to comply with a wide variety of global food safety regulations. ISO 2000-2005, however, was not approved by the GFSI at the time due to weak prerequisite program content. In order to bolster this content, a group of large multinational companies wrote an addendum to the ISO 2005 standard known as the Publicly Available Specification 220, which was then commonly called PAS 220 of 2008, which was obviously also issued in 2008. Subsequently, different PRP standards that go with ISO 20000, depending on the sector, have been published. The latest version of the ISO 20000 standard is version 2018. So therefore, it's now called the ISO 20000 2018. Now, let's move to the FSSC 22000. FSSC stands for the Foundation for Food Safety Certification. They are the ones who developed the FSSC 22000 after four leading global manufacturers joined forces and initiated the FSSC 22000 scheme. It was developed after combining ISO 22000-2005, which of course at the moment is now 2018, PAS 220-2008. As I've said, this has since been replaced by different PRP or technical standards or ISO technical standards that depend on the sector that the company operates in. For an example, for food manufacturing, it's now ISO technical standard ISO 22002 Part 1, which then relates obviously to food manufacturing. FSSC 22000 was approved by the GFSI in May 2009 and as a global benchmark in food safety management. Since February 2010, FSSC 22000 became the sixth standard to join the stable of GFSI recognized schemes. So there is already Global GAP, there is already PLC, IFS, Canadian GAP, etc., the Dutch HACCP standards, and many others, including SQF. Over the years, the FSSC 22000 scheme started to expand to other sectors with the ultimate goal of supporting the whole supply chain, which includes transport, packaging, and many other standards. Nowadays, the scheme supports 7 sectors in the food supply chain to cover food safety from farm to fork. Let's now look at world-famous food safety incidents. We are going to look at food safety incidents from early 1900s right to the present day. The first incident was caused by Mary Mallon. Mary Mallon was an Irish-born cook believed to have infected over 50 people with typhoid fever. Unfortunately, 3 of those people died. She was the first person in the United States identified as an asymptomatic carrier of Salmonella typhi. Then in 1971, there was the Iraqi poison grain disaster, which was caused by a methyl mercury, which is a heavy metal. In this incident, over 400 people died. Then in 1993, the Jack in the Box restaurant chain supplied the public with burger patties that were contaminated with E. coli. This incident resulted in over 3 children, or exactly 4 children, dying from contaminated beef patties and infected about 732 people. Then in 1998, mustard oil was contaminated with a white petroleum oil, which was mixed with edible mustard oil. It is estimated that over 60 people died and over 3,000 people fell ill as a result of this incident in Delhi, India. Let us now look at another incident that happened in 2002. In China, 42 people, mostly school children, died after eating food from a breakfast shop which was laced with rat poison by a competitor. More than 300 people were seriously injured as a result. Apparently, the man who was responsible for this incident was executed by the Chinese government. Then in 2008, infant formula along with other food materials and components were adulterated with melamine. Of an estimated 300,000 victims, 6 babies died from kidney stones and other kidney damage, and an estimated 54,000 babies were hospitalized. Then in 2018, there was a big listeriosis outbreak in South Africa, which is thought to have started in 2017 and persisted until mid-2018 with 1,065 confirmed cases and 218 deaths. It was traced in March 2018 to a ready-to-eat processed meat product. Again in 2018, numerous punnets of strawberries grown in Queensland and Western Australia were found to be contaminated with needles. There were 186 reports of contamination nationally in Australia. The purpose of a food safety management system today. Before we get into the purpose of a food safety management system, let's look at what is the basic definition of a food safety management system. A food safety management system is a group of practices and procedures that one puts in place to effectively control risk and hazards throughout the food process and ensure regulatory compliance. The steps that you'd follow when you are implementing a functional food safety management system would be to identify the risk, assess the risk, control the risk, and review the control to see if they are still effective enough to control the identified risk. Food safety management systems provide the industry with excellent tools for the control of food safety and food quality. A food safety management system that is effectively implemented provides a structured management approach to control food safety risk in food handling operations. And lastly, perhaps also more importantly, it ensures that one or a business complies with regulatory as well as customer requirements. Let's look at the benefits of a food safety management system. The most important is, of course, that it ensures that the product that is being supplied to the consumer is safe. It could also have a lot of benefits for the business because a functional food safety management system can increase the company's profitability since everything is done right the first time. It minimizes the risk of litigation, the risk of consumers consuming a product that is unsafe. It also minimizes wastage of food. And that could also contribute to the company's performance as well as profitability. Let us now have a look at the main benefits of implementing a food safety management system. The first benefit, it is easier to comply with compulsory regulatory requirements. The second benefit, it provides proof of compliance with regulatory requirements because you cannot get certification without complying with the compulsory regulatory requirements of the country of where you are manufacturing the product and also the country where you intend selling the product. So if you are intending to sell the product to Europe or maybe to Canada, to Spain, to the UK, to Russia, you must ensure that you comply with whatever requirements that your customer has said you must comply with in order to sell the product there. It also provides for due diligence defense in court. You can defend yourself or your organization because that shows that whatever occurrence that has occurred, maybe a food safety incident, a food safety management system certification shows the intention to ensure you provide a safe food to your customer. It also ensures that you are able to identify and control food safety hazards. So you are able to control it while your food is within your control, because one of the key requirements, especially under food safety hazard, is that you must have a risk assessment that you have drawn up and ensure that you implement the controls in order to produce a safe food. It reduces the risk of food safety incidents because if you are able to control food safety hazards, if you have got GMPs that have been properly implemented and are effectively implemented and controlled, you therefore reduce the chance of food safety hazards occurring within the organization. And also your ability to self-improve, your ability to implement corrective actions minimizes the risk of food safety incidents. And also that's why we have got to do mock recalls. That's why we have got to do environmental monitoring, for an example, that ensures that whatever could occur, you anticipate and you have got a risk assessment that you have put in place to prevent the occurrence of food safety hazards or food safety incidents. Also, you have got to train your staff. They must be competent in their respective responsibility, which then contributes to ensuring that the food that you sell to your customers is safe at all times. Food quality standards can also increase because we are not only focusing on food safety, but we are also focusing on food quality to ensure that your customers get the food of a higher standard. So if you have got sufficient controls, if you're controlling maybe your temperature, if you're controlling storage, if you're controlling production, if your staff is sufficiently trained, they will know what to do, and at the end of the day you produce a food that is of a high quality standard. And lastly, it increases efficiency and productivity because staff is continuously being trained, is also knowledgeable about whatever that they're supposed to do, and they are being monitored in terms of their competence, and also all these controls and all the corrective action that you are supposed to implement, then they know what to do should there be an incident that occurs. In terms of productivity, they are more productive because they are more engaged in the job. They are being told why is it that you must do a certain thing, so they've got a better understanding of their respective responsibilities. Other main benefits of implementing a food safety management system include helping to generate and improving food safety culture because there is more communication within the organization. There is top-bottom communication and bottom-up communication. There are more training sessions that are planned. There are more meetings that are planned between staff and top management, or even floor staff amongst themselves. It leads to the reduction in customer complaints because of the high standard of food manufacturing, and also the root causes that are being conducted by organizations to determine what could be going wrong. So that leads to the production of a high quality food and also obviously a safe food. It increases credibility and in turn increases customer confidence because once you have got an FSSC 22000 certification, for example, it's an internationally recognized certification. So once a customer buys a product from you, they know that your production methods and processes follow international standards, and therefore the food that you are producing is high quality and is safe for them to consume. It provides for an opportunity to expand your business locally and nationally because you have got a competitive edge in the form of an FSSC 22000 certification. Also, local retailers are insisting that food manufacturers have some form of certification. Therefore, if you have got FSSC 22000 certification, you are able to show that you are in fact compliant with their requirements. It also offers you an opportunity to expand your business internationally. As you know, FSSC 22000 is recognized across the world. So therefore, it can open markets that were previously not available to you. And lastly, you will be able to comply with international customer requirements, as most of them require GFSI recognized certification schemes in order for them to buy from you.